And I think every time I walk up a gangway, especially as a cadet, I am instantly, oh God, as soon as I speak, it's even my accent, the way I talk, I have to prove myself constantly. And I think as a female seafarer, every female seafarer I speak to feels the same. You kind of have to prove yourself.
Hello, and welcome to the Off Course Pod, where we dive deep into the stories of inspiring individuals navigating the vast oceans and bustling ports of the world. This series we're calling the Maritime Influencers because we're speaking with seafarers making a splash on social media, showing the world what it's like to work at sea. There are a few wee changes that you'll notice in this series. Drum roll, please. We have launched on YouTube. Ta-da! So make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are Nautilus TV. And if you subscribe, you'll get alerts so you'll never miss any of the episodes. Another change you will notice is that I am the new host for Series 3. I have wrestled the reins off of Robert, who joins me now. Hi, Robert. What's the crack?
Hello, Helen. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good.
Excellent.
Enjoying being in the driving seat.
It's big responsibility, Helen.
It is. It's a big responsibility. It's big shoes to fill, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Excellent.
So, Robert, as you know, we launched the pod to raise awareness of the work our members do on board ships, both globally and in national waters, and to let kind of the public know how important these workers are to our everyday lives. And as part of that work, we have been surveying members of the UK public to get a bit of an understanding of how much they know about working at sea. This is part of our Maritime Barometer report, and we plan to launch the third iteration of that later this year. Very exciting stuff. But one of the questions that we always ask in the Maritime Barometer is, what percentage of seafarers do people think are women? And why do we ask this question?
I think we asked this question, Helen, because it's a really interesting answer in the sense of if we ask people to close their eyes and think about a sailor, a seafarer, often what they'll think of is a man, and it is a predominantly male-dominated industry. And I think while society, I think we are starting to change our views in society, and I think the breakdown between what were traditionally male jobs and female jobs, that has become much more blurred over time. But I think what's really interesting, and I know you're going to give us the data, is that when we look at the data from in terms of female seafarers, the maritime industry is really behind a lot of these other professions. And although there's a lot of fantastic work that is happening and it's going in the right direction, there's still a huge amount of work to do. And so I think the answer, the data that we get is actually quite surprising to a lot of people. And unlike other aspects of the data that we look at, I think people actually massively overestimate the amount of women that are actually in jobs at sea.
Yeah, absolutely right. People do massively overestimate the percentage of women working at sea. In fact, I can tell you that in our 2021 Maritime Barometer report, people thought that as many as 18 or as much as 18% of the workforce at sea were female, when really it's just somewhere between 2 and 3%. So a huge disparity there in the public's perception of the workforce.
And I think that's
at sea.
really, yeah, and I think that's really interesting, that 2 to 3%. I mean, that is so low in terms of if we look at, I think, at professions again across society. And look, there are lots. Seafaring is a very specific profession, and I think one of the things that we often hear is about the long periods away from home.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree that actually that 2 to 3% figure is still way too low.
Oh, absolutely. It's way too low. And when you're consistently got a percentage that low, then you're consistently in a minority, aren't you? And a very small minority. And that, brings with itself some very specific challenges that filters all the way down to things like pay and conditions. And potentially, in some circumstances, we're very aware of course, is a lack of support from employers in terms of their policies and their kind of working practices as well. So it can also become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for the launch of series 3, we are speaking to a female influencer who is absolutely smashing it. I'm sure you'll be just as thrilled as I am, Robert, to hear of our exceptional very first guest, Third Officer Scarlett Barnett-Smith. Scarlett currently serves on board the Dover Seaways ferry with DFDS, which she documents on her Insta account. It was so much fun talking with Scarlett, who came into our offices in London for a sit-down chat with us. She is genuinely committed to promoting the magic of the maritime industry and inspiring future generations of seafarers. So let's get into it.
Hi folks, and welcome to the Nautilus Pod. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce an amazing guest, Scarlett Barnett-Smith. Scarlett is a third officer with DFDS. She's also worked aboard the Sir David Attenborough, and she's worked for Trinity House as well as the PLA. She's a passionate advocate for female seafarers and has been recognised as a trailblazer with several industry awards. So welcome, Scarlett.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Very lucky to be here. I'm very grateful. So thank you. I'm a big fan of Nautilus, always have been. So pretty surreal walking in and actually going into the office and seeing everyone. So yeah, lovely to be here. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. And we're so thrilled to have a member with us as well, because we talk to a lot of seafarers, but we don't always get members in. So thank you so much for coming.
I'm excited to be here. Excited for this podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
It's already fun.
It's already fun.
Started.
Oh my God. We've done a lot in the background, haven't we? So this is great. Let's get the first question going. Your current role, you're a third officer on a ferry with DFDS.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's it like day to day for you?
It's very fast paced.
Yeah.
Very challenging, but very rewarding. It's pretty surreal crossing such a busy channel. Obviously, the Dover Straits, if not the busiest channel in the world. So going not with the direction of traffic, against it, crossing the channel is, it's pretty intense, but it's brilliant, especially as a junior third officer. I think kind of what I've already seen and dealt with traffic-wise has been kind of phenomenal, and especially because it is on the bridge, majority of the time, is just the officer watch and the QMs. You have a lookout.
So for somebody who doesn't know what on the deck means, being on the bridge or even a QM, what is that? So you're a deck officer?
Yes, so I basically drive the ship.
Yeah.
So from port to port, I come up and I do a handover with the captain, and he gives me the con of the ship. So then I sign a piece of paper that say I'm driving the ship right now, basically.
Yeah.
And after that handover, the captain goes down below to the office, but he's always on standby. On ferries, they have day and night captains because it's obviously such a busy channel and so much things could go wrong. The captain's always ready to come to the bridge and isn't far away, so they're always in their office or around the accommodation area. So you kind of are there, and then you have a QM, which is a quartermaster, who's an extra pair of eyes, an extra pair of ears, helps with a lot of admin, because obviously bridge management, there's a lot can go on, and you do need that extra, especially on such a busy channel. So they're kind of up there to give you that hand. It's just a helping hand really with everything. And a lot of the QMs at DFDS have been there a very, very long time and extremely experienced, which is something that I'm not afraid to admit that I'm not, because I've only been at sea now since April. You know, I've been a seafarer or a cadet for 3 years, but not a qualified officer. I'm very junior.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing that I'm kind of chucked in the deep end with this kind of busy channel on the bridge. It was busy traffic. I think it's definitely the best decision I could have made.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's what I do. I drive the ship.
It's amazing. You drive the ship,
yes,
and in effect, you're in control of this ferry crossing the English Channel multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Up to 10 times a day or more than 10 times a day, right?
Yeah.
Right? And you've been at sea in April.
Yeah.
Huge responsibility, really.
Of course, yeah.
How do you take that on board? How do you handle it?
So I think during my cadetship, I think cadetships are brilliant because as a cadet, as soon as you join that ship, you are an officer. You're an officer trainee, you know.
Right.
So you are kind of given, even though you're completely supernumerary on board, you're not given any kind of responsibility, but you're trained in a way that you know what I mean, you're not. So there's a lot of times there's an officer on the bridge, they've got the con, but they might give me the nav. So I'm on the bridge dealing with the navigation, and they're always kind of looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you're a qualified officer, you've not got someone there looking over your shoulder, holding your hand. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I definitely was prepared. I
Yeah.
feel like that's why a cadetship is 3 years and why you need to do a minimum of 12 months at sea, because it's preparing you for this feeling in your belly that you get that you have your first watch on your own. So that's the first time you're driving the ship on your own. The captain goes down and you're standing there and, oh my God, the feeling in my belly. I was like, what have I done? I don't know if I can do it. But obviously, I know I can. I'm trained to do it. I've studied for a very long time. I've set multiple exams and I qualified. I'm past that. I passed all my exams. I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
And after that first watch, it's kind of over and you've done it and you've not killed anyone. Everything's safe. You're fine.
Yeah.
And then you're just given more and more opportunity to build your confidence and build your experience and knowledge, because obviously you're on your own now and you've got to be the one that keeps that ship safe and deal with things in a calm manner.
So you've got huge amounts of responsibility in this first job aboard DFDS, but it didn't come immediately, did it? Because during the cadetship, you're actually kind of trained.
Of course.
Yeah. Do you want to explain that a bit?
Yeah, so you do obviously all your training as a cadet, and when you're kind of qualified, you are kind of given that ticket. In some ships, you go on straight away and you go onto that bridge on your own for the first time, literally the day you join. But with DFDS, you do this thing called phase 1 and phase 2. And it's called basically a pass out. So the captain need to see you on the bridge, loading the ship down on deck, and see you driving the ship in a safe manner, because it's such a busy channel, obviously, before they kind of go, you can be an officer with DFDS. You do a pass out thing. So I done some training with another officer when I first went on board. And then I did a 3-week trip doing that. And then I had a week off, and then I come back for a week, and then I done my pass out, where the captain basically just sat at the back of the bridge, saw me, and he was like, okay, yeah, you're good. And then I went to the sister ship, and once again, I was on there a couple of days with another captain at the back of the bridge watching me and listening to me on deck, loading, dealing with the cargo. And he was like, yeah, okay. And then that's kind of when I went back to Dover Seaways, and they went, okay, you're on your own. Wow. And that's when I had that feeling of like, wait, what? I'm on my own? I'm on my own? But obviously that's what you're trained to do. You're trained to deal with emergency scenarios, be kind of competent with driving any size ship anywhere in the world, because that's what the license is. It's unlimited. It's Officer Watch Unlimited. So it's literally unlimited. That's what's in the name. Yeah. So you need to be ready.
You could go from a ferry to a tanker, which, like a liquefied natural gas tanker, for example, or a cargo.
You need endorsements for certain ships. You do have to have endorsements, but technically it's an unlimited license. So if I wanted to work on LNG with my Officer Watch Unlimited, I could. I just need an endorsement for gas. But I could go from, as I was on the Sir David Attenborough, to I was on a cruise ship. So I could go on a cruise ship. It is unlimited. So, but obviously different ships, you do need different endorsements. Like with this ferry, I had to do this phase 1, phase 2 of the captains to go, she's safe to drive across such a busy channel. But it's
like learning the particulars of that trade, or learning the particulars of that type of vessel.
And you do that. You do that at college. So I done exams on gas, tankers, passenger cargo, passengers as cargo, obviously bulk, break bulk, dry. Like you do all of your kind of training, all them different types, because it's unlimited and you need to understand how different cargo on different ships work. But some companies, you have to have job specific tickets and things, endorsements with your license. But it is unlimited.
Yes, God, so it's really something that you said before. I'd like to kind of take you back to. So when you are working with DFDS, even though you're a deck officer and you're driving the ship, you're also helping with the loading and unloading and kind of all the cargo side of things, which to me sounds a bit mad. Like it's like having 2 jobs at the same time.
That's literally what it's like. Yeah, it's like Tetris. That's why I explained the car deck. It's like Tetris, and you've got 2 decks. As the officer, kind of, you go down, and I'm in charge of top deck and deck 5. Basically, deck 5 can only take cars, and the top deck can take all different types of freight. So obviously you have dangerous goods, which all have to be segregated as per the IMDG code. You have cars that are too high to go up to deck 5, so you have to put them, so they're called high siders. So they're basically too big to go up to the car deck. You have motorbikes, push bikes, a lot of push bikes, cars, not cars, pieces of freight that need to be plugged in. They're called plug-ins. They're basically fridges that need to be plugged in.
Right, okay.
With medical supplies and food. You have fridges that can keep running. So they're diesel, so they keep their fridges running, but they need to be put in a certain position on the ship because they need ventilation, more ventilation than other parts of the ship. So basically you have to segregate them to different parts. You have obviously pet cars. Now it's summer. Pet cars need to be in a cooler part of the ship. So I have to think, okay, I've got 15 cars with pets, so I need to put them, basically I need to think about the ventilation, the fans, and think, okay, I'm going to put them there. So you ask them for at the end, and then all of a sudden another car will turn up and they'll go, oh, we've got an extra plug-in, can you fit that in? And you're dealing with the load, you're like, oh my god, there's an extra plug. There's 2 radios I have to wear. So one's for all of the guys on deck that are helping me, and for the bridge knows about obviously estimated time of departure. They're always saying, do we have 15 minutes till you're done? How long do we have done? Until you're finished loading. And then you've got the other radio, which is either for Dunkirk, when we're in Dunkirk, or for Dover. So they
port side
load masters, the port side, and they're kind of telling me, you know, never met their faces, but they seem to know my voice. They're always like, hi Scarlett, and I'm like, hello, because I do have quite a strong accent, maybe, especially in France. I think they can tell it's me straight away. They're like, oh gosh, not her again. No, but it's pretty intense, because then you do mooring, obviously let go, and then you go up to the bridge and the captain hands over to you again, and then you drive the ship and you hand over to the captain, go down, discharge, load, up to the bridge, drive the ship down to, it's literally like up, down, up, down, up, down. And then you have time to do your PMs as well, where you're doing LSA. PM? So it's planned maintenance. Okay. So it's sort of like life-saving appliances and firefighting equipment on board, which officers basically maintain and ensure that they're ready for immediate use.
So you're doing planned maintenance in between all your work on board deck, and you're loading and offloading, and you're doing this multiple times a day.
So we work 12-hour shifts on ferries, but obviously you're on board for 2 weeks. It's an intense 2 weeks. But you're home for 2 weeks. So now I'm just home for 2 weeks. And I can do what I want. So I can go shopping. Last time I went to Marbs. My last 2 weeks I went on holiday. So you have 2 weeks to do what you want and just relax. See your friends and family. Obviously, when you're back on board the ship, it's very intense for 2 weeks. Well, I like that. That's what I love. I love being busy. I'm not one to sit down. I like keeping. I'd much rather a job that I'm dealing with loads of traffic, and I'm, you know, having to learn from loads of different scenarios, and that's kind of going to make me grow as an officer, right? Quickly. So that's why I do it.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. It sounds exhausting. I'm exhausted just hearing about it, and I've never had to work it. It sounds absolutely intense. I mean, you've kind of talked about your shift patterns and the responsibility, quite a lot of responsibility that you've got very early on. What do you think are like some of the most standout experiences that you had, maybe on ferries, maybe somewhere else? You've mentioned Sir David Attenborough, Bodie McBoatface.
Good old Bodie McBoatface.
What springs to mind? What's been like your most amazing experience so far?
Obviously, going to Antarctica was probably the most amazing experience of my life, and getting paid to be there, obviously another unbelievable thing. And I think, it's just such a place of such untouched, undisturbed beauty that I would say to anyone, like, where should I go? Where should I travel? And I think if you've got one life to live, you've got to go to Antarctica. If it's your last thing you do, if you say for something, if you think, I want to do something, you know, do that once in your life, because it's just stunning. I loved that. I loved waking up in the morning, having my coffee, and just icebergs being everywhere, and penguins, and loads of whales, humpback whales and killer whales, and it's just like a bit like, it was crazy.
Just a unique experience, I imagine.
Albatrosses, huge birds, like dinosaurs.
And what was it like working on board the ship? I mean, it must be quite a unique experience in itself, right? It's quite a specialised ship. It does research as well.
A lot of research.
What role were you when you were on board?
So because I was kind of at the end of my cadetship, it was the last ship I was on as a cadet. They kind of said, okay, you're going to be the officer on the bridge. So obviously I never had, there was always another officer with me, but it was kind of the duties of what driving a ship in Antarctica would be, which obviously you've got to navigate through ice, which is very complex. You've got to understand different icebergs, different types of ice. And basically what the ship does is it's got 12 labs on board for scientists to work in, but it also delivers all the provisions to Antarctica. Because obviously all of the different research stations around Antarctica need things like toilet roll and food,
Yeah, of course.
and cleaning products, but also scientific equipment, and all that kind of technical building supplies and a lot of random cargo. So it's all break bulk cargo. That's what the ship loads. So not just containers, but very peculiar scientific equipment, which I have got no idea what any of it's used for, or even the names that they call this equipment. I'm like, what? When I'm reading the loading list, like, what even is that? But basically, the ship loads all of this different stuff on deck. It sails it to Antarctica, and then it goes to all these different research stations, and it drops it all off. And it picks up people that have been in Antarctica for 6-7 months, and they come on because they've not drunk fresh water. All of their water's been made through water machines. And there's a lot of penguin everywhere. Oof. The water's got a taste, and there's a lot of what are they called, fur seals. Fur seals. I don't know how to pronounce seal. All of a sudden, I forgot I'd say seal. But fur seal. All these seals. Is that actually a seal?
Yeah, they're seals.
They're seals. So basically, they stink. They absolutely stink. You can smell penguins before you're on the ship, driving the ship, and you you literally go outside. You're like, penguins in there. You can smell them. And so they come on board, these scientists, and they go to the water cooler. They all stand in there, and at first I was like, what are they all doing? They've all just got glasses of water, and they're all just sipping this water because they've not tasted like clean water in so long. It's like the most bizarre thing, but everyone's like, yeah, it's just normal. Everyone's walking on the ship like it's normal, and they're at a water cooler like, oh my God. And I was like, but then after time I understood that obviously the water there tasted not the
like
best.
Penguin poo.
Like the penguin poo or seal poo or whatever it is. Apparently it just doesn't taste good.
I love it.
And food, they just eat their food like, oh my God, because obviously they've ate like the provision packs or whatever. I'm sure that they enjoy their life. They love it. They absolutely love it. I would love it. I would love to be in Antarctica for 6 months, but yeah, there's different delicacies that they don't get, like chocolate. I know a lot of guys would go into this base that we dropped them off, and they was going to be there for 2 months. And they were studying fungus, like the fungus in, I don't know, in the ice or whatever. And I gave them a big stash of chocolate. Just literally in the boat. We come into where they was being, I think all of their faces were a bit like, oh God, this is reality, 2 months. And I went, here you go. And I gave them a bag, and they were like, they opened it, and I was like, so I gave them like loads of my chocolate because I took so much with me. Yeah, they're probably still thinking about me now. Oh, that chocolate she gave me. They probably had a tiny bit every day. That's what I would have done.
When did you first realise that you wanted to work at sea?
I think when my dad's had a sailing boat. So I remember standing at the bow. Back then I probably would have called it the front. The front of the boat. Obviously now it's the bow. And I was standing there, I was just looking at the water. I remember just looking, obviously as the small boat kind of went through the waves, and I was just thought, oh my God, I just had a feeling in my belly, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I was like, but I didn't know if I really wanted to do sailing boats. But I just knew the feeling of looking at that water and thinking, I don't know, I just had a feeling. I was like, I love the water. I've always loved it.
How old would you have been then?
Oh God, about 15.
Okay.
So 14, 15.
Yeah.
But when I basically had that feeling, I was like, there's nothing else I want to do. I want to work in the maritime industry. So I started doing like RIA courses. So I done like day skipper and paying for it all myself. But my dad helped me. And it was just getting more and more expensive. I was thinking, I can't do this. But I didn't even know if I wanted to work on sailing boats. You know, I just knew that I had that feeling that I wanted to be around the water. And then through searching online, I found the Waterman Lighterman Company, which is a lightering company in London, surrounded by the Thames. Yes. And I went for an interview with them, all via online, an online platform. And they kind of said to me, okay, do you want to do an apprenticeship on the River Thames? And I was like, an apprenticeship? And then they explained the boatmaster's apprenticeship, which is basically where I started my career, and I applied to every company. They gave me about 3 pages worth of companies on the river. I applied to every single one. And I think I only had 1 reply, and they actually laughed at me on the phone.
What?
Because I was a female, and I think it was like a salvage company or something. I was like, you want to work? And I was like, yeah. And they literally laughed at me. And I just remember having that feeling like, oh God, maybe this isn't possible. And then I had another talk with the hall, and I kind of explained the situation. And they was like, oh, we know this guy called Richard Bain, which is Jetstream Tours, a small passenger boat company on the River Medway. He's looking for an apprentice. So I went, because I'm from the Medway, I literally lived about 15-minute drive from where he was kind of based in Chatham Docks, which is like right next to where I lived. And I turned up, and he was like, okay, you want to do an apprenticeship? I was like, yeah. He was like, let's do it then. So he literally had this small passenger boat company, and I worked with him for about 4 or 5 months, absolutely loved it. But then I found about the PLA was doing an apprenticeship, and everyone knows that works on the river, the apprenticeship they do, it's just so amazing because they've got such a variety of vessels. Yeah. And they're obviously in charge of safe navigation of the whole of the tidal Thames. So I kind of went for the interview not really thinking I would get it. And the first interview, it was like a Lord Sugar, like, you're fired. That's what it was like. There was all of these people there, like about 100, I don't know how many people, and you had to do, they would put us all in groups, and we had to kind of talk. And I knew at the time there was only 2 positions for this apprenticeship, so I was like, oh God, I'm definitely not going to get it. And then I remember just getting up, because I chat a lot, you probably can tell. I remember getting up, there was a whiteboard, I just got a pen, and I was like, let's go. And I just thought I was like in a TV show, and I just started writing stuff, and they gave us all these different tasks, and then they asked me for another interview, and then I went, and then the 3rd interview or something, the last one, I got the date wrong. So I was like, I had a call, and they was like, Scarlett, like, you're meant to be here. And I was like, oh my God, I was literally there with all the PLA stuff studying for this interview. And it was all there. I was like, I can be there in 30 minutes. Like, they was like, no, sorry. And then I had a call back, and I remember my heart being like, that's it. Because I got so far, and then they was like, you can come tomorrow. Because I went back for the emails, and there was a complication with the dates. They did say one day and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I went for that second interview, and I think they were just a bit like, what the hell? But I'd studied so hard because I was like, I've got to be like on the game now. So I turned up, I gave them a booklet each of all of my like OA tickets at the time, which I don't know why, but I guess it did impress them. I was like, I've got my day skipper, like all of these scanned copies of everything I'd done with the Waterman Company, what I'd done with Jetstream Tours, everything. I gave them all a copy. And I just told them everything about the company. I knew every boat. I was like, yep, you've got this. But it's so funny because they have this boat called the London Titan. And I called it a London Titan. And they were like, do you mean the London Titan? Or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah. I remember being like, oh my God, they're definitely not going to get, I'm done. But they did employ me. And then I had to obviously say goodbye to Rich, which I was really sad about at Jetstream Tours because that was an amazing company. But yeah, then I started an apprenticeship and then a cadetship.
Yeah. So PLA, I think we need to explain that Support of London Authority for anybody who doesn't know that already. When you say you kind of got into PLA and then you started your cadetship,
yes.
What was that? Did they basically sponsor you to go to university? Can you explain that a little bit?
So I done a boat masters Tier 1 Level 2 apprenticeship on the River Thames, which basically anyone that's a captain on the River Thames, majority of, if not all, will have a boat master's license. All the Uber boat, the Thames Clippers Uber boats, all the tugs you see, the pilot cutters, all the passenger boats on the Thames, all the captains have a boat master's license. So that's what I've got. And when I got that license, it was the end of my apprenticeship. I'd been there for 2 and a bit years, nearly 3 years, done an apprenticeship, and it was kind of like, okay, what do you want to do now? And I just had this feeling, I was like, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a PLA pilot. And they were like, well, we don't think you can do that with a boat masters. You need to be you need to go to sea and join the Merchant Navy. And it just all come about that they couldn't kind of do this cadetship without another sponsoring company because, they'd never done, I don't think they'd ever done it before. I think I was the first PLA cadet. So that's where they got in touch with Trinity House. Obviously, Trinity House works a lot on the estuary of they work quite closely together. Obviously, Trinity House do all the voyage and lighthouses all around the UK. So
it's also a licensing authority as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they sponsor a lot of cadets.
Yes.
And they help a lot of people through the kind of cadetship program.
The training process.
Yeah. So they were brilliant because they had that kind of management and experience with it. So I got my co-sponsors. So I was sponsored by both Trinity House and PLA. And then I'd done a cadetship for 3 years, which is where I went on the Sir David Attenborough, on HMS Tamar, which was really cool. And I got to do loads of really cool things. So
Yeah, brilliant. And for those people who don't know what a cadetship is, it's a quite unique type of study, isn't it, compared to, say, if I was doing an English degree or if I went and did nursing or something like that. Can you kind of explain the differences?
So I always say, like, if you're thinking about doing a cadetship, like, if you're even thinking about it, do it. Because it just is the best thing I ever done in my whole entire life. Like, I didn't think that, you know, being able to say, okay, I can drive any size ship anywhere in the world, like to even be able to say that and actually be telling the truth, I didn't think that was even a possibility. And that's what you can get out of cadetship. You can finish your cadetship and you can say, I can drive any size ship anywhere in the world. And I don't think it matters at all where you come from, you know, what you look like, what gender you are. If you're thinking about it, you can do it. Because I wouldn't say I'm an extremely academic person. I done a higher national diploma route. So I done a lot of studying at Warsash, which is part of Solent University. And it was a 3-year block of my life, which you kind of do have to put everything on pause if you become a cadet. You do. And it's quite a big kind of commitment to say, okay, for 3 years, I'm going to be a cadet. But it's very rewarding. Out of that 3 years, you need to spend at least 12 months at sea. So being sponsored by Trinity House, I got to go on a variety of ships. So that's where I got to go to Antarctica on Sir David Attenborough. I got to go on HMS Tamar, which was a Royal Navy ship, which I was on board for 5 months, which was unbelievable. I got to South Hawaii from the UK, so I got to go through like Panama Canal, went around Caribbean. Obviously, Hawaii was so cool. Like, it was cool. Got crossing like the North Atlantic, but and obviously I was on a cruise ship as well.
Wow.
I was on the Trinity House ship, so I got a real variety, which is kind of the benefit of being part of a charity like Trinity House, because you get that kind of experience. You do that for 12 months, and the rest of the
But it's not necessarily 12 months in a row.
No,
it might be a
3-week trip, 3-month trip. It depends on kind of your contract with the ship. But out of that 3 years, even though it's all split up into segments, it's split into 5 segments. You're at university, then you're at sea. That's phase 1, university. Phase 2, sea. Phase 3, university. Phase 4, sea. Phase 5, university. That's basically how Warsash split it. And then the rest of it, you're studying for a high national diploma, and then for your Officer Watch Unlimited license. That's what I did, which was amazing. So if you're thinking about doing a cadetship, I think just do it. I can't stress enough how unbelievable it is. And if you're even thinking about joining the Merchant Navy, that doesn't have to be, you don't have to join it as an officer. You know, it's such a massive industry. And there's, even on a ship itself, there's so many different ranks. You know, you think if a toilet goes, who's going to fix the toilet? You know, if the engines go, we've got a problem, the ship can't sail, you need engineers as well. There's catering, like, it's just, there's so many different departments on ships. And I think it's very easy to go cadetship, become an officer, go to sea and drive the ship. And, you know, you could also just go to sea and join any part of the kind of ship.
So people who might know about Merchant Navy might have a very narrow idea about the work that is available, but actually what you're saying is there's so many different opportunities, from chefs to engineers to deck to hospitality. Exactly.
Like, it is, like, you've got a lot of stewards that work on board. It's such a fun kind of role, because I always say when you're on a ship, it doesn't matter what type, you do kind of have a community. It's kind of like a family community in a way, because everyone's there for a job and for a reason. But also, most people spend half their lives on that ship, or half their lives at sea, minimum a year. So you kind of have to make it your home. But the kind of feeling of doing a typical 9 to 5, for me, for some people it works for them. But for me, the feeling of being in an office, and, you know, I could never see myself doing that. But a lot of people could never see themselves being at sea for a big period of time. But I like going to sea for 2 weeks, it's done, then home for 2 weeks, then do what I want at home. And I love the feeling, which I say 1,000 times, and I'll just talk about it all the time. But it's like when you have your coffee, and, like, it doesn't matter if it's really bad weather or if it's beautiful, right? You have your coffee and you open up your window in the morning or your porthole, whatever you've got in your cabin. If you've got one in your cabin, if not, you go on deck or you go up to the bridge and you just look out and you're like, oh my God, like I'm on a huge ship at sea, wherever that might be. At the moment, it's the English Channel. And, you know, you're there and you're like, I'm getting paid to drink this coffee right now. I'm getting paid quite good money to see this, to be here. And
what better feeling?
It's an amazing feeling.
What better feeling? Now, you did now just mention money, and we'll get into that in a bit. But I think going back to the cadetship, this is another real benefit, isn't it? Because unlike other students here in the UK and elsewhere who are racking up huge amounts of student debt to get their degrees, you're not necessarily doing the same as a cadet, are you?
No, that's another benefit of being a cadet. You don't come out of it in £40,000 debt. You're paid to study, which people don't realise. You're literally getting paid for 3 years of your life to study, to have a licence that could possibly, obviously, if you don't make any big mistakes, last for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you're not coming out of that with any. Obviously, some cadets do, you know, end up with a small amount of debt. But if you manage your, I don't think you need to. If you manage your money right, when you're at sea, you don't spend much money.
Yeah.
I didn't, because you're not buying food. You're not buying clothes, which is where I spend a lot of money on clothes. You're not getting your nails done. You're not getting your hair done. You're saving money, right? Yeah. And obviously, then you come and you study, and you do have to pay for accommodation and you have to pay for food, but you're a student. So you're not obviously eating at the Ritz every night. You're just living like a student.
It does depend on what type of cadetship you do have. Some
pay more.
Some pay more, some pay less.
Every month you get around, I would say majority of companies, you get around £800, roughly around that figure a month to live off of, which, you know, when you're at sea and you're getting £800 a month, let's say you're on a 4-month contract, you're on a ship for 4 months, you're getting paid that a month. You're not spending that a month, you're saving it. And then you come back and you're at college, I don't know, for 5-6 months at college. So you pay for accommodation for 6 months, you pay for food for 6 months. It's enough to live on.
It's doable.
It is doable.
It's doable. Unless, I guess, of course, people have, you know, debts.
It's hard.
You know, and it's not like you'll be going out every night partying, because you won't be able to afford to do that necessarily. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. You do have to kind of put everything on pause. And that's why I do understand why so many people that would love to do it and love to go to sea just physically can't, because I think it's a big kind of commitment.
Yeah. So maybe if you've already got like a mortgage or a family or things like that, it would be more difficult.
It's definitely harder. Yeah. It's more challenging. And you know, I've got massive respect when I see, you know, how would I allowed to say that? Older cadets that have got kids that are doing
like job changes or something like that. So you have been recognised with several industry accolades recently.
I know.
Obviously, the Nautilus International Bevis Minter Award. Well done. Congratulations. There was also the Wasatch Maritime School. You got the Higher National Student of the Year.
Yeah.
And the John Percival Award for Best Industry Trainee. And that was from the Workboat Association, I believe.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Achievement.
I know.
I mean, how do you feel about receiving these awards and the kind of recognition that comes with it?
So the John Percival, the Workboat Association Award, I won that at the beginning of my cadetship for my apprenticeship on the river. The Workboat Association basically awarded me with that because of all the things I'd done for kind of women on the Thames, and I worked with the Women on the Water Network, and I'd done a lot for kind of women working, not just on the river, but I kind of promoted the river, and I'd done a lot of PR and things with the Port London Authority. So, and I worked quite closely with the Workboat Association because obviously I'd done a boatmaster's apprenticeship, so I worked on workboats. So that was unbelievable. Yeah. And then recently I went to Belfast, the Maritime UK Awards. Yeah, I won the Bevis Minter Award. But I didn't think I'd won it because I arrived a day earlier because DFDS kindly said, go a day earlier. And I went to an amazing kind of exhibition about electronic vessels. And I met a load of my old fellow, like people I used to work with at PLA. And I met a lot of people from Maritime UK. And I was like, hi, nice to meet you. They all acted like they didn't know who I was. I was like, oh, hi. And I was like, oh, I'm a finalist. They were like, we don't know you. And then at the awards, obviously, when they were like, Scarlett, you've won. I was like, what? And I saw all their faces and I was like, cheeky buggers, you got me. Because I told everyone that I was like, I've not won it. They didn't even know who I was. They know I'm a finalist, you know. I didn't know who I am. Nice. And then they were like, you've won it. And I was like, oh my God. But I was so happy, obviously, I flew out because I won it and it was amazing. And then the Wasatch Award, that was amazing, unbelievable. Yeah, I'm so grateful to Wasatch, that award, you know. is something that I'll have for my career. And it's pretty surreal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking I don't believe it. Because like people say, oh, like you've won like now 3 awards at 23, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I have. I know I have, but it's just a bit of a bizarre thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just getting used to the idea for it now. You mentioned one of them was for your work of promoting women at sea, and those kind of female networks. And that's kind of something that Nautilus has been working on for a long time, raising awareness, but also supporting female members when they're at sea and ashore. And I know that you do this on your socials as well, right? This is one of the big things that you do, but sometimes you don't get like the most positive responses to some of those. Can you kind of like talk us through like some of the kickback that you've got from people? What type of attitudes have you experienced on social?
I find it really difficult, to be honest, because I went through a stage where I didn't post for such a long time because I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I let so much negativity get to me, and I'm one that deletes. If I send something negative, delete, and I get a lot of fake profiles as well. People that use my photos, and I just block them instantly, and I don't want to raise any attention to it. But it was just getting to a stage where everything I posted, there was someone saying something negative about it, and anything I said, there was a negative. It would just like switch, and I think it really knocked my confidence with kind of, because you are so vulnerable when you post online. And if you post something and I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I've got more eyes on me because I'm a female which is, I don't know if I can say it, but I feel like if I make a mistake, it's highlighted massively.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to just have a break from it all, which you can do. So it's the luxury of it. You can just turn it off and get away from it.
But
I feel like, unfortunately, we're still a massive minority, right? Females in the maritime industry, which is the reason I do social media, and like maybe it's to promote more females to come to sea. If I'm being honest, I want more females to come to sea. I'd love to go on a ship and it not be like, oh my God, you're a female seafarer. It to be like normal.
Yeah.
And I do think in the future, hopefully that could be a possibility, but I think it needs to become a more accessible industry. And I think it's not about just promoting women in maritime, it's about the retention of women in maritime.
And supporting those women who are at
exactly.
sea. Yeah.
And it's making them stay because it's a challenging industry. And I think the maritime industry is obviously as a whole is quite behind with a lot of things, and a lot of companies are very kind of happy to promote women in maritime, yes, but what are they doing about it?
Yes.
What are the actions they're taking to support women in maritime? And to be honest, I'm quite lucky because I do a lot of social media, and because I've kind of promoted my career, the good thing of it is when I was kind of, I've passed my officer watch, I've got my own license, blah, blah. I did get offers through social media platforms and LinkedIn.
Job offers.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's another benefit of social media, I think.
Yeah.
But a lot of these companies I was looking at and I was like, well, what are you actually doing? What's the actual changes you're making? What are you doing to keep your female seafarers, if you have any, but also attract? But that's what I loved about DFTS, because their goals that they've set is just so different to any other company. They said, I think it's by 2030 or something, it's 20% female officers on deck and engine. And I was like, okay, that's easy to say that, but what are they doing about it? And they've took in like so many female cadets across their whole, and they only took female cadets. Wow. And I think it got a little bit of backlash, but I think, well, they're saying they need more female officers. They're a company that's saying they want more females at sea. So they've just employed female cadets. And
put their money where the mouth is.
Exactly. And they've done that. And that for me was an instant like, wow.
Interesting. Yeah. What are the challenges then? So for somebody who isn't aware, we think it's obvious. We talk about this all the time, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody will be aware of the challenges for female seafarers.
The biggest problem I faced is I am a girly girl. I like being girly. I'm not someone that, even if I'm at home on my own for the day, I'll put my fake tan on, I'll get my makeup on, I'll paint my nails. I just like being a girly girl. That's what I am. But I also love being covered in oil on deck, working with the lads. But I am a girly girl. And I think I really struggled with that at first because I didn't want to be seen as a girly female girl.
Didn't want to stand out as being different.
No.
Yeah.
And I think every time I walk up a gangway, especially as a cadet, I am instantly, oh God, as soon as I speak, it's even my accent, the way I talk. I have to prove myself constantly.
Yeah.
And I think as a female seafarer, every female seafarer I speak to feels the same. You kind of have to prove yourself. But I think because I'm just so girly and I'm just so crazy Scarlett, it's a bit like, oh my God, I have to prove myself 10 times more.
Right.
That's how I felt and feel. And I've had to, you get on a new ship and it's not just, oh God, I've got to meet all these people. I'm walking up this, I don't know anyone. I've got to live on here for 4 months. It's also, oh God, are they going to, you know what I mean?
Are they judging me already? Yeah. Are they going to respect me? Are they going to listen to me? Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, especially now I'm qualified, I feel like for maybe, not that I've experienced it a lot with UFCS, but I feel like for maybe more seafarers that are male, that have been at sea for 40 years, ABs on deck, for example, maybe they do struggle with the fact that I'm a 23-year-old girl that's got all their makeup on, got a fake tan, because I do fake tan Thursday on a ship. Every captain that's sailed with me knows I do fake tan Thursdays. Every Thursday night I've got fake tan on. So for the weekend I'm tanned. I do it, that's what I do. So they all know, they always go, oh, fake tan Thursday, every ship I go on.
Love it.
But then they've got a girl coming down, you know, fake tan Thursdays, and I've got to be serious and professional.
Yes.
And I've got to say, you know, got to challenge. If they're not wearing the correct PPE, if they're doing something wrong, then I have to kind of switch and be like, no, you can't do that. And I'm the officer down here. Oh, I've been in charge of everyone's safety, and you're doing something unsafe. I'm just saying it as an example.
Yes.
I think it's that kind of struggle. They're like, well, I've been at sea for 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm a however old man, and a 23-year-old coming down and telling me what to do.
Yeah. And that's because of the hierarchy on board the ships, right? It's still quite how we would describe a hierarchical structure. You have the captain who is ultimately in charge, first officer, second officer, third officer, etc. So, you know, in your example, a third officer is more senior to an AB on deck.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how old you are and how long
that.
you've been at sea.
I do struggle with that because I feel like I want to be everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
But we've said, I'm not saying that. I just feel like as a cadet, especially when I joined the ship, because you are a cadet and it is that kind of mix. You're like, you're an officer, but you do a lot of training and studying with the ABs, and you're kind of, it's that weird mixture. But even the officers on ships, when I joined, they're a bit like, what the hell? You know, who is this? I'm up there with like my 5 bags, because I pack ridiculous amounts whenever I join a ship. My cabin is pink. Like I've got bunting, love heart pillows, fairy lights, everything. I've got rugs, I've got pink shower curtains, anything you can think of. My cabin has it.
Share some videos with us so we can like drop it in here.
I am just myself. And for so long I wasn't myself. But after a month of being at sea, you can't hold it in. You're going to be yourself. But it's always going to be harder being a minority in any environment, especially a close environment where you're sleeping, eating, working with the same people for a long period of time. And being a minority is very challenging. And I feel like the industry is changing for the better because it's becoming less of a, but I feel like what we're starting to see is not different types of females, I don't know how to say it, but, you know, different characters, because now we're getting more females. There's going to be loads of different types of girls.
Because there's all different women out there with different needs and desires and wants.
And And I feel like you've just got to be yourself. And I went for a stage of just hiding that kind of myself, but not hiding. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say.
No, I absolutely get it. Yeah, you were probably toning yourself down a little bit, you know, so you didn't have all the attention.
So I was like, who's this girl?
Break free.
I am Scarlett, and I am extremely passionate about my job. I love my job. I love the maritime industry. My job is my life. My whole life is revolved around my job, and I think it always will be, because I'm so enchanted and in love with the maritime sector, with being at sea, with just anything. Boat, like my house, my friends are like, what the hell has he bought now? Like, you think that's your model? I've got ships, I go to boot fairs and I pick up like these old blokes, like, what the hell is this girl taking this ship? I'm like, tenner, come on, do it for me for a tenner. I've got all these ships around my house, and I think my friends are like, I'm crazy, but also next to them ships I've got, you know, all my girly things. I've got all pink and fluffy things. But it's just who I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So you're obviously a very strong character. You know you know, what you like, what you dislike, and you've become adapted to being on board ship as, you know, probably the sole female or one of few females in many circumstances. But what can employers, ship owners, what can the industry do? Is there like one thing that they could do to really support female seafarers or better support female seafarers?
I think there's quite a few things that they could do.
Good.
My big one, which is I've been feeling this for a while, is like sanitary provisions.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult?
Why is it so hard?
On a ship, it's something that I would be up at night worrying, oh, I'm going on a ship. Oh my God, do I have enough? I'm going to be on the ship for 4 months. So do I have enough sanitary provisions for 4 months? What happens if I'm, you know, when am I going to come into port? Especially ships that go deep sea.
Yeah.
You've got this feeling in your belly and you pack just so much conditioner, shampoo, just girly things.
But ship stores, could they not just have enough?
This is the thing that frustrates me, because in like maritime regulation, a lot, you have to have X amount of, you know, medical supplies. Why isn't it in regulation to have sanitary provisions on board a ship? Why? If you want to attract more females into an industry, that is one of the biggest things as a young girl joining the maritime industry, thinking about being on a ship. Absolutely. And the embarrassment behind that, not just embarrassment, but the kind of like, where do I put my stuff? Is there a special bin for it? And that kind of unknown, if it's kind of, no, it's maritime regulation, there'll always be enough. There's females on board, there will be sanitary provisions, it's in the law.
Even if there's not females on board, it should be on board the ship. Right?
That's what I think. That's my...
Interesting. Maybe the maritime
watch your space.
Yeah, watch your space.
Scarlett in Parliament. No, but I definitely be like, oh my God. But I feel like it's a massive thing. And I'm so frustrated that companies don't. But when I worked on the Thames, you know, I was working on the river and it was my biggest thing. But still, I used to put it in my pocket. I used to wrap it and just put it in my bag. I was like so embarrassed. I'd go to the toilet, I'd try to be as quick as I could. I was a young girl, you know, I was 18, 19. And you kind of think, but then I spoke to the PLA about it and I said, why haven't I had this kind of support? And then all of the vessels had to have these pouches for girls, which is all the sanitary provision, and that put it in place. And that was an amazing kind of thing for me. It's like, I spoke about something I was really embarrassed and shy about, and something's good to come out of it.
Yeah.
But on ships, I think
you don't want to have that conversation every single time you go on board a ship. Especially
the kind of unknown of, okay, I'm going to be on a ship for 5 months. Okay, am I going to have enough? Because for me, it was conditioner as well. I took so much conditioner. It's ridiculous, like the amount of conditioner I took in my bags. But it's just like, we're girls. We just want certain things. Yeah. So it's just, I think,
The sanitary products, number one. What else?
I think support system and support networks, which I think is actually starting to, I feel like the industry as a whole is starting to really change already. I feel like there's a lot of female seafarers that do like PR, like promotional stuff on Instagram and things like that. And I always say, like, for any young girls, got any problem, message me. And I've already had a few cadets message me and things like that. But I think it's like networks. It's starting women at sea networks and companies supporting them. Yeah. And going, okay, we've got a few female seafarers. We want to show them that we support them. So we're going to, you know, get them in touch with this Women on the Water network or kind of networking. I feel like certain companies could do more with that.
Mentoring. And obviously Nautilus can help female seafarers and female cadets.
And connecting females. And especially senior officers that have kind of been there, done that. Yeah. That's my biggest kind of been my biggest support system is speaking to people that have done it. The female seafarers that have done it, they've got their license, that are up there that I've met through events and things like that. They've helped me massively because if I have a problem, they've probably had that problem too. Yeah. If I've had a belly feeling like, oh, I can't do this or can't do that, they probably had exactly the same feeling. So it's just kind of that kind of support network. I feel like shipping companies could do more to ensure that their female seafarers have got that additional support elsewhere.
They can signpost it for you, give you the information. Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
Okay, sanitary product, support. Yeah. Anything else?
I feel like pink pens. I feel like every ship should have pink pens, pink paper. I'm trying it with you.
I was not expecting that.
Pink. I'm going to say, like, Captain, I've got some spare pink bunting. Can I put it on the bridge? Like, no. I was like, why does it feel wrote in pink? Like, no, we can't. We need to write in black. No, I'm joking. I think that's the main two things.
Pink pens.
Pink pens, yeah. The main one is pink. I feel like every ship should be pink. No, I just joke about that one, but I do think them two are the main. I can't think of anything else. I do think that just making it more fun for girls. Yeah. And making it like just it's not always super glamorous. You know, you're on deck, you've got to be a person that can go on deck and tie ropes and, you know, chip and paint and do all of that kind of stuff as well. It's not just always on the bridge with your uniform looking pretty, you know. It's kind of
doing Instagram.
Yeah, doing Instagram pictures, doing TikToks. It's not all that, you know. You've got the other side of the industry as well.
Yeah. So Scarlett, you're now a third officer. You're working full-time at DFDS. You've had all this amazing experience, industry accolades, recognition. What is next for Scarlett Barnett-Smith?
I don't know. I want to get my mates next.
Okay.
And then after that, I want to get my masters. I would love to be, you know, able to say I can drive any. I want to be a captain of any size ship anywhere in the world. To be able to say that would be amazing. But see, my next step would be my chief mate's ticket. But I'm really enjoying DFDS at the moment. I'm really enjoying working on the channel. I'm really enjoying my ship, Dover Seaways. I absolutely love the crew. I love the captains. I think the captains really make a ship. And on that ship, we've got amazing captains, amazing crew. Everyone's really lovely and kind and supportive. And yeah, I'm happy where I am at the moment, really happy. So yeah, I guess next step would be my chief mates, which is a long way off yet. I've got 10 months to go at sea, but
10 months will go in a flash.
Go quick.
In an absolute flash. Well, good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
I'm sure you can absolutely achieve anything that you want to. And next time we get you back, you can be Captain Scarlett Barnett-Smith. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Robert, hey, I think you can tell that I really enjoyed that interview with Scarlett. How do you find it?
Fantastic. I mean, Scarlett is such a presence, and
Isn't
her
she?
energy is just something else. I mean, you can tell she is so passionate, and I think, you know, that passion really comes through, and that energy for the industry, that energy for everything she's done. And actually, I think, you know, that really gets to the heart of her and her success, which is that energy, that I guess that passion, that means when there are challenges, and there have been challenges as she's talked about, that actually there is still that ambition and that drive, and I don't think you can buy that, and I don't think you can just make that up. So, you know, I think and anyone who's met Scarlett, you know, I've met Scarlett a couple of times, I think now, and anyone who's met her knows that she just radiates that energy and that passion, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she absolutely does. The energy that she's got and the positivity as well. I mean, and look, she knows her own mind. She knows she wanted to work at sea, and she didn't take no for an answer right from those very early days when she was, you know, trying to get that first apprenticeship on the river, and, you know, had so many knockbacks immediately, but just kept going. That perseverance, kept knocking on the doors, kept making the phone calls until, you know, she kind of got that all important first foot through the door. So, you know, you can kind of see that carrying through her story, you know, now to, you know, working for the Port of London Authority and getting her cadetship, and now working for DFDS, and, you know, crossing the English Channel. This is not something that should be underestimated, you know, and Scarlett describes it really eloquently. But, you know, that overwhelming workload when you're crossing the channel in a ferry up to 10 times a day, going backwards and forwards, you're nonstop, right? You're loading vessels, you're loading passengers. She described it as a, you know, game of Tetris, didn't she? And you can really picture that, from, you know, getting all the different vehicle types on the different decks, you know, to the safety checks, to then going back up onto the bridge and actually physically driving the ship across the channel as well. It's, you know, it really is quite mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Dover to Calais route has been described as like trying to cross a busy motorway at rush hour, you know, and it is one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. But obviously, it's not just the shipping lane between, you know, the UK and France. It's also the route for lots of ships up to, you know, the Nordic countries, the Baltics, etc. So, yeah, I mean, and just I think she painted it really well, talking about that sort of game of Tetris, right? I think for those of us who aren't seafarers, who have never, you know, had to try and do that, I think it just that analogy sort of makes you realize just how difficult the job is, and also how dangerous it is as well. I mean, this is something that we talk a lot about at Nautilus, particularly around fatigue.
Yep.
particularly on these intensive ferry routes, like Dover to Calais, where there is such a quick turnaround and it is constant back and forward. And of course, we had the absolutely scandalous actions of P&O Ferries
Yes.
back on the 17th of March 2022. And a huge part of the work that we've been doing at Nautilus since then is to raise the issue of safety standards. And I think that is so important, that we're talking about safety standards, that we're talking about things like roster and fatigue, because as Scarlett highlighted again, this is not an easy job. These are not easy jobs that our members are doing. They are incredibly difficult, especially with the intensity of it. And so it's really important that for us as the Union for Maritime Professionals, that we are constantly talking about the safety of our members.
Absolutely.
Because,
the safety of
go ahead,
members,
sorry, yeah.
safety of the vessel, safety of
Yep,
passengers, ultimately,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So the roster patterns that Scarlett described there, that she's currently doing at DFDS, is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So what that means, if people kind of didn't quite fully understand, it means she works solidly for 2 weeks, and then she has 2 weeks break to get over those very long hours, those very fatiguing hours. So she's refreshed and then comes back on board again and repeats that. But we know P&O Ferries and some other employers have different shift patterns. Some seafarers are working on board for much longer periods of time, 17 weeks and above, and quite frankly, this is not to be supported. It's hugely fatiguing shift patterns, and can create unsafe working conditions. So we would certainly be supporting any employers that are looking to do something like the shift patterns that Scarlett is doing with the 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. But another really interesting point that I think Scarlett made there was her kind of top tips for employers. And this is particularly important going back to our conversation around the percentage of female workforce, that 2 to 3%, really small percentage being women. There's still an oversight around things like sanitary provision at work for women, which is just, you kind of think it as an office worker, a shore-based worker, how can that be? But, to hear from the horse's mouth that, she as a young female seafarer has had to kind of provide for herself and carry her own, sanitary waste off the ships sometimes, tucked up into her personal goods because she's too embarrassed because there wasn't any provision for her. These are fundamental rights for female workers that are not being catered to by many employers. And, it's really quite shocking to hear, and certainly something that we would like to see solved wherever possible. But I think also female mentorship. How important is that to kind of have an ally, have a support within the company on board the ship to really kind of be there as a support, as a sounding board, and as a colleague. So important for female seafarers.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think mentorship, for lots of people, I think is really important. Particularly for young women, that mentorship, because they are such a small group and minority within the profession. But I also just think for young people in general as well, I think mentorship is so important. Just being able to have that experienced person that you can bounce off, that you can ask for support and advice, who understands the industry and understands the experience that you're going through. And again, I think one of the things I love about the podcast and Scarlett's no different, is that the lessons that we learn, you could apply them in a very specific context, with which Scarlett is, as a female seafarer, but actually you can take these lessons and apply them across society as well. And I think that is just a perfect example of a piece of advice, certainly one that I would chime with, which is, if you are young, if you are trying to break into an industry, find a mentor, get that person that you can bounce off, get that person who's going to help you, because I think it is a massive source of support at what can be quite a vulnerable time in your early career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, for all other types of workplace support, we would recommend that seafarers come and join Nautilus International. We can assist you with pay, conditions, any disciplinary issues, and a whole range of other workplace support is on offer from the union. So come and join us and 20,000 other seafarers across the UK, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. So, Robert, what a great start to season 3. I will make make sure to put links to Scarlett's socials in the show notes, plus a link, of course, to the Nautilus Maritime Barometer report and lots of information on how you too can join Nautilus. So thanks again, Robert, and speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.